The dusty stagecoach lurched to a halt outside the general store in Portland, Oregon, and Katherine Wright stepped down onto the wooden boardwalk with trembling legs, clutching a carpet bag that contained everything she owned in the world, knowing that somewhere in this frontier town of 1867 waited a man she had never met who now owned her future. She had not chosen to leave Boston. Her uncle had made that decision after her father died, leaving debts that could only be satisfied by Katherine's removal from his household. She had not chosen to answer the advertisement for a mail-order bride. Her aunt had written the letters, forged Katherine's penmanship, and accepted the proposal on her behalf. She had not even chosen the dress she wore today, a faded gray cotton thing that her cousin had outgrown. At 22 years old, Katherine had been given no voice in any matter concerning her own life, and now she stood in a place so far from everything she knew that it might as well have been another country entirely. The September air carried the scent of pine and river water, so different from the salt and smoke of Boston. Portland was smaller than she had imagined, a collection of wooden buildings scattered along muddy streets, with the Willamette River gleaming in the distance and mountains rising like sentinels beyond. Men in dusty work clothes moved along the boardwalks, and women in simple calico dresses hurried past with baskets on their arms. Everyone seemed to have purpose, direction, a place to be. Katherine stood frozen, wondering which of these strangers was Nathan Irving, the rancher who had paid for her passage west. Miss Wright? She turned to find a man approaching, and her breath caught in her throat. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with broad shoulders beneath a worn leather vest and dark hair that curled slightly at his collar. His face was sun-bronzed and angular, with lines at the corners of his eyes that suggested he smiled often, though he was not smiling now. He looked to be perhaps 27 or 28, and there was something careful in the way he moved, like a man approaching a skittish horse. "Yes," Katherine said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you Nathan Irving?" "I am." He removed his hat, revealing more of that dark hair. "I hope your journey was not too difficult." "It was long." She gripped her carpetbag tighter, unsure what else to say. This was the man she was expected to marry, possibly as soon as today. This stranger who stood an awkward distance away, turning his hat in his hands. "I imagine so." Nathan cleared his throat. "Miss Wright, I know this situation is not exactly conventional. I thought maybe before we make any decisions, you might want something to eat. There is a restaurant just down the street. Nothing fancy, but the food is good and honest." Katherine blinked. "Before we make any decisions?" "Well, yes." Nathan's dark eyes met hers, and she saw uncertainty there, mixed with something that might have been kindness. "You have just traveled 2,000 miles to meet a complete stranger. Seems to me you might want a meal and a chance to catch your breath before anything else happens." She had expected to be taken directly to a church, or perhaps to his ranch. She had prepared herself for immediate marriage to a man who might be cruel or cold or simply indifferent. She had not prepared herself for this quiet courtesy, this unexpected consideration. "I would like that," she said softly. The restaurant was called Murphy's, and it was indeed nothing fancy, just a long room with rough wooden tables and a counter where a stout woman with flour on her apron took orders. Nathan guided Katherine to a table near the window, pulled out her chair with an old-fashioned gallantry that surprised her, and then took his own seat across from her. "They make a good beef stew here," he said. "And the biscuits are the best in town. But you can order whatever you like." Whatever you like. The words felt strange to Katherine's ears. She studied the handwritten menu board on the wall, realizing with a small shock that she genuinely could choose. "The stew sounds fine," she said finally. "Thank you." Nathan ordered for both of them, and when the woman brought coffee, Katherine wrapped her hands around the warm cup and tried to gather her thoughts. Nathan Irving did not look like a cruel man. He had a strong face, honest and open, and his hands were calloused from work but clean. He had not tried to touch her beyond offering his arm to help her over a muddy patch on the street. He had not leered at her or made crude comments about their wedding night. He had simply offered her food and a chance to rest. "Miss Wright," Nathan said quietly. I think we should be honest with each other. Catherine's stomach tightened. Here it came, whatever demands or expectations he had been holding back. I placed that advertisement because my ranch needs a woman's touch, Nathan continued. I have been working the land for 5 years now, building something real, but a ranch is not just cattle and fences. It is a home. Or it should be. I wanted a wife, a partner, someone to share the work and the life with. But I have been thinking during these past weeks while I waited for you to arrive that maybe I went about this all wrong. What do you mean? Catherine asked. A marriage should be a choice, Nathan said, and the conviction in his voice surprised her. Both people should choose it freely. I know that is not always how things work, especially for women, but it seems to me that if we are going to build a life together, it should start with honesty and choice. So I am asking you straight out, Miss Wright, do you want to marry me? The question hung in the air between them. Catherine stared at him, trying to find the trap in his words, the hidden cruelty. But Nathan's expression remained open, waiting. I do not know you, she said finally. That is fair. I do not know you either. My family arranged this. I did not write those letters. I did not choose to come here. Nathan's jaw tightened slightly. I suspected something like that. Your letters were very formal, and the handwriting changed between the first 2 and the last 3. So he had noticed. Catherine felt a flicker of something like respect for this observant stranger. What are my options, Kinitsen? She asked bluntly. If I say no, what happens to me? I have no money for passage back to Boston, and even if I did, I have no home to return to. Then we find you one here, Nathan said simply. Portland is growing. There are families who need governesses, shops that need clerks, hotels that need staff. I will not abandon you in a strange place with nothing, Miss Wright. If you choose not to marry me, I will help you get settled somewhere safe with honest work. Catherine's throat tightened with sudden emotion. No one had ever offered her help without expecting something in return. No one had ever cared what she chose. Why? She whispered. Because it is the right thing to do. Nathan leaned forward slightly. My mother raised me to believe that a man's character is measured by how he treats those who have no power over him. You came here in good faith. Even if the choice was not entirely yours, the least I can do is make sure you have real choices now. The stew arrived, steaming and fragrant, and they ate in silence for a few minutes. Catherine's mind raced. Nathan Irving was offering her something she had never truly had before, agency over her own life. She could refuse him and strike out on her own in this frontier town, or she could take a chance on this quiet, honorable man who spoke of partnership and choice. She studied him as she ate. He had good table manners, using his napkin properly and chewing with his mouth closed. His clothes were worn but clean and well mended. He did not gulp his food or talk with his mouth full. Everything about him suggested a man of decency and self-respect. Tell me about your ranch, Catherine said. Nathan's face brightened slightly. It is about 5 miles from town, in the valley east of here. I have 200 acres with a creek running through the property and good grazing land. Right now I run about 50 head of cattle, but I'm building the herd slowly, doing it right. The house is small. Just 3 rooms, but it is solid. I built it myself with help from my neighbors. There is a barn, a chicken coop, and a garden plot that has not been properly tended because I am better with cattle than vegetables. Catherine found herself almost smiling at that admission. What made you come to Oregon? My family was farmers in Missouri, but after the war, things got difficult there. Too many memories, too much bad blood between neighbors. I wanted a fresh start, someplace where I could build something new. Oregon Territory was opening up, and I had heard the land here was good. So I came west in '62, worked as a ranch hand for 3 years to learn the trade and save money, and then bought my own land. Do you have family here? No. My parents and younger sister stayed in Missouri. We exchange letters when we can, but it takes months for mail to go back and forth. Nathan paused. What about you, Miss Wright? Tell me something true about yourself, something that was not in those letters your family wrote. Catherine set down her spoon, considering. I love to read, she said quietly. Before my father died, he had a library, and I read everything in it. Poetry, philosophy, novels, histories. My aunt thought it was a waste of time, said it filled my head with impractical notions, but I loved it. I loved traveling to different worlds through words. I have books, Nathan said. Not many, maybe 20 volumes, but you would be welcome to them and I could order more from town. The general store keeps a catalog. Something warm unfurled in Catherine's chest. You read? When I have time, mostly in winter when the ranch work slows down. He smiled, and it transformed his serious face into something more approachable, more human. I am not much for poetry, but I like a good adventure story. They finished their meal, and Nathan ordered coffee and apple pie for dessert. Katherine could not remember the last time someone had treated her to something sweet just because. The pie was perfect, flaky crust and cinnamon-spiced apples, and she savored every bite. Miss Wright, Nathan said when the plates were cleared, I do not expect an answer right now, but I would like to make you an offer, a real one that you can genuinely choose. Katherine met his eyes and nodded. Come out to the ranch with me just for a visit. See the place, see what the life would be like. I have a neighbor, Mrs. Brennan, who lives about a mile down the road. You could stay with her tonight and for as many nights as you need while you decide. Spend some time getting to know me and let me get to know you. And then, if you think we might suit, we could talk about marriage. If not, I will bring you back to town and help you find other arrangements. No pressure, no obligations, just a real choice. Catherine's hands trembled slightly as she lifted her coffee cup. This man was offering her time, space, and freedom to choose her own future. It felt almost too good to be true, and yet his steady gaze held nothing but sincerity. All right, she said. I would like to see your ranch, Mr. Irving. Nathan, please. If we are going to get to know each other, might as well use first names. Nathan, she repeated, tasting the name, and you may call me Katherine. His smile widened. Katherine, it is a pleasure to truly meet you. They left the restaurant and walked to where Nathan had left his wagon, a sturdy vehicle pulled by two patient horses. He helped Katherine up onto the seat with a gentle hand at her elbow, then climbed up beside her and took the reins. As they rolled out of Portland, Katherine looked back at the town once, then turned her face forward toward whatever lay ahead. The road east followed the river for a while before turning inland toward rolling hills covered with grass and scattered groves of trees. The afternoon sun was warm on Catherine's face, and the air smelled clean and fresh. Nathan pointed out landmarks as they traveled. The Brennan farm where Katherine would stay, the Fisher property, where a young couple was just starting out, a distant stand of timber that marked the edge of the valley. Most of the folks out here came west in the last 10 years, Nathan explained. We help each other when needed. Barn raising, harvests, that kind of thing. It is a good community, people who are not afraid of hard work. Do you have many neighbors? Katherine asked. Enough that you would not feel isolated, but spread out enough that everyone has room to breathe. The Brennans are the closest. Sean and Molly, both from Ireland originally. They have 3 children, good people. Molly has been after me for months to find a wife, so she's going to be very interested to meet you. Katherine felt a flutter of nervousness. What will you tell her? The truth, that you are visiting, getting to know the area, and that nothing has been decided yet. Nathan glanced at her. Molly can be a bit enthusiastic, but she means well. If she makes you uncomfortable, just tell me and I will talk to her. They crested a hill, and Nathan pulled the horses to a stop. There, he said, pointing, that is my land. Katherine looked where he indicated and saw a small valley spread out below them, green and peaceful. A creek wound through the middle, catching the sunlight like a silver ribbon. Near the creek stood a house, small and square with a stone chimney. Beyond it was a barn and several outbuildings. Cattle grazed in the distance, dark shapes against the grass. It is beautiful, Katherine said, and meant it. There was something honest about the scene, something real and solid that appealed to her in ways she had not expected. It is home, Nathan said simply, or it is becoming one. Come on, I will show you around. They drove down into the valley, and as they approached the house, Katherine could see it more clearly. The structure was made of rough-hewn logs chinked with clay, and the roof was shingled with cedar shakes. A small porch stretched across the front, and someone had built flower boxes beneath the windows, though they were empty now. Nathan helped her down from the wagon and led her to the house. "It is not fancy," he warned as he opened the door, "but it is sound." Inside was dim and cool after the bright sunlight. Catherine's eyes adjusted, and she saw a main room with a stone fireplace at one end and a kitchen area at the other. The furniture was simple but well made. A table with 4 chairs, a rocking chair near the fireplace, shelves lined with dishes and supplies. Everything was clean but sparse, clearly the home of a bachelor who spent more time outside than in. "The bedroom is through there," Nathan said, gesturing to a door on the left side of the room. "And there is a small room on the other side that I use for storage, but it could be turned into another bedroom if needed. The stove works well, and the chimney draws clean. The well is just outside the kitchen door, good cold water year-round." Katherine walked slowly around the space, trying to imagine herself living here. It was so different from the crowded row house in Boston where she had grown up, or her uncle's narrow townhouse where she had spent the last 2 years. This place had space and light and quiet. "May I see the bedroom?" she asked. Nathan opened the door to reveal a small room with a simple bed, a dresser, and a trunk at the foot of the bed. The bed was neatly made with a faded quilt, and the floor was swept clean. "If you decided to stay, this would be your room," Nathan said from the doorway. "I would sleep out in the main room until after the wedding, of course, and even after, well, I believe a husband and wife should both want to share a bed. That is something else you would get to choose, Katherine." She turned to look at him, surprised again by his consideration. Most men would never think of giving a wife such a choice. "You are very unusual, Nathan," she said softly. He shrugged, looking slightly uncomfortable. "I just think people should be treated with respect, especially in a marriage." They went back outside, and Nathan showed her the barn where he kept his 2 horses, the milk cow, and supplies. The chicken coop held a dozen hens that clucked and fussed at the intrusion. The garden plot was indeed overgrown with weeds, a clear testament to Nathan's lack of skill in that area. "I can grow things," Katherine offered. "My mother taught me before she died. We had a garden in Boston, small but productive." Nathan's face brightened. "Really? That would be wonderful. I have been buying most of my vegetables in town, which gets expensive." They walked down to the creek, where clear water burbled over smooth stones. Willows grew along the bank, their branches trailing in the current. Nathan pointed out where he planned to build a smokehouse next spring, and where he thought a good spot for a root cellar might be. Katherine found herself relaxing as they talked. Nathan was easy to be with, not demanding her attention or expecting her to perform. He simply shared his plans and listened when she offered thoughts or asked questions. The afternoon sun slanted low across the valley, painting everything golden, and for the first time in years, Katherine felt something like hope stirring in her chest. "We should head to the Brennans before it gets dark," Nathan said finally. "Molly will have my hide if I keep you out too late on your first day." The Brennan farm was only a short ride away, a slightly larger spread with a 2-story house and several children playing in the yard. As Nathan pulled the wagon up, a woman emerged from the house, wiping her hands on her apron. She had red hair pulled back in a loose bun, a round, pleasant face, and sharp blue eyes that took in everything at once. "Nathan Irving, is this the young lady you have been expecting?" she called out in a voice that still carried a hint of Irish lilt. "It is. Molly, this is Katherine Wright. Katherine, Molly Brennan." Molly hurried over, beaming. "Oh, you poor dear, you must be exhausted from your journey. Come inside, come inside. I have stew on the stove and fresh bread." Nathan helped her down with her things. Before Katherine quite knew what was happening, she was swept into the house, installed in a comfortable chair at the kitchen table, and handed a cup of tea. Molly bustled around, talking nonstop about the neighborhood, the weather, and how glad she was to finally meet Katherine. Nathan carried in Katherine's carpet bag and set it gently in the corner, then accepted his own cup of tea with a grateful nod. So, Molly said, finally sitting down across from Katherine, Nathan tells me you are visiting for a bit, getting to know the area? Katherine glanced at Nathan, who gave her an encouraging nod. Yes, she said. Nathan has very kindly offered to let me take some time before making any decisions about our arrangement. Molly's eyebrows rose and she shot Nathan a look of approval. Has he now? Well, that is proper of you, Nathan. Too many men would just rush straight to the wedding. She turned back to Katherine. And what do you think of our valley so far? It is beautiful, Katherine said honestly, very different from Boston. Oh, Boston. I've never been there myself, but I hear it is quite the city. You must find Oregon very quiet by comparison. Quiet is not necessarily bad, Katherine said softly. Molly's expression gentled. No, dear, it is not. Quiet can be a blessing, especially when you're starting a new chapter. They had dinner with the Brennan family, a boisterous affair with 3 children ranging from ages 5 to 10, all talking over each other and making their parents laugh. Sean Brennan was a stocky man with kind eyes and rough hands who welcomed Katherine warmly and teased Nathan good-naturedly about finally taking steps toward matrimony. Katherine found herself smiling, even laughing at the children's antics, and when Nathan finally stood to leave, she felt oddly reluctant to see him go. I will come by tomorrow morning, Nathan said as he stood on the porch, hat in hand. If you would like, I could show you more of the area. Or if you would rather rest, that is fine too. Whatever you choose, Katherine. I would like to see more, Katherine said, if it is not too much trouble. No trouble at all. Nathan smiled, and in the lamplight from the house, his face looked younger, more open. Sleep well, Katherine. Good night, Nathan. She watched him ride away into the dusk, then turned to find Molly standing behind her with a knowing smile. That is a good man, Molly said quietly, one of the best. Whatever you decide, Katherine, you should know that. I am beginning to see that, Katherine replied. Molly showed her to a small bedroom upstairs, clean and cozy with a real mattress and soft blankets. Katherine unpacked her few belongings, changed into her nightgown, and slipped into bed. Through the open window, she could hear crickets singing and the distant sound of the creek. The air smelled of grass and earth and something sweetly floral she could not name. For the first time in years, Katherine felt safe. Not happy yet, not settled, but safe. And that was a start. The next morning dawned bright and clear. Katherine woke to the sound of birds and children's voices drifting up from downstairs. She dressed in her other dress, a blue cotton that was only slightly less worn than the gray one, and pinned up her dark hair with care. When she came downstairs, Molly had breakfast ready, eggs, bacon, fresh bread with butter and jam. Eat up, dear, Molly encouraged. Nathan will be here soon, and you will want your strength if he is taking you out riding. Riding? Katherine asked, suddenly nervous. Well, yes. How else are you going to see the area? You can ride, can you not? I have not been on a horse since I was a child. Oh, Nathan will find you a gentle one, do not worry. He is good with horses. True to Molly's prediction, Nathan arrived mid-morning on horseback, leading a second horse behind him. This one was a pretty mare, dappled gray with a sweet face and calm eyes. This is Daisy, Nathan said, as he helped Katherine approach the mare. She belongs to the Fishers, but they said I could borrow her. She is the gentlest horse in the valley. Even the Fisher children ride her. Katherine stroked Daisy's soft nose, and the mare woofed gently against her palm. Hello, Daisy. Nathan showed her how to mount, giving her a boost up into the saddle and adjusting the stirrups to fit her legs. Katherine gripped the pommel nervously at first, but Daisy stood perfectly still, patient and calm. Just hold the reins loosely, Nathan instructed. She will follow my horse. You do not need to do much, just sit balanced and move with her. They set off at a slow walk, Nathan on his big bay gelding and Katherine on Daisy. After a few minutes, Katherine began to relax into the rhythm of Daisy's gait, remembering the feel of riding from her childhood. Nathan led them along the creek, pointing out good fishing spots and places where deer came to drink at dawn. They rode up into the hills where the view opened up, showing the valley spread out below and the mountains rising in the distance. That is Mount Hood, Nathan said, pointing to a massive snow-capped peak. And over there is Mount St. Helens. On a clear day, you can see Mount Adams, too. They are magnificent, Katherine breathed. They never get old, Nathan agreed. I look at them every day and still feel like I'm seeing them for the first time. They rode for hours, Nathan showing her the boundaries of his property and pointing out neighboring ranches. They stopped by the creek to let the horses drink and rest, sitting on smooth stones while the water rushed past. Nathan told her about his plans for expanding the herd, about the challenges of ranching in Oregon, about the harsh winter he had survived his first year when he had almost given up and gone back to Missouri. What made you stay? Katherine asked. Stubbornness, mostly, Nathan admitted, with a wry smile. And the fact that I had put everything I had into this land, I could not bear the thought of failing. He picked up a pebble and tossed it into the creek. But also, I believed in what I was building. I still do. This place, this life, it means something. It is hard work, but it is honest work. And at the end of the day, I can look around and see what my hands have made. That matters to me. Katherine understood that sentiment more than she could say. She had spent her whole life living in spaces created by others, following rules set by others, existing at the whim of others. The idea of building something of her own, of making choices that mattered, was intoxicating. What would my role be? She asked quietly. If I stayed, what would you expect of me? Nathan considered the question carefully. I would hope for partnership, he said finally. The ranch work is mine to handle, the cattle and fences and all that, but the house, the garden, the chickens, those would be yours if you wanted them. I would expect help with cooking and preserving food for winter, and I would help you with anything you needed. Beyond that, he shrugged, we would figure it out together. I am not looking for a servant, Katherine. I am looking for a companion, someone to share this life with. And if I have ideas, if I want to change things or try something new, then we talk about it. Nathan met her eyes steadily. I cannot promise I will agree with everything you want, but I promise I will listen. And if it makes sense, we will do it. This would be your home too. Katherine, you should have a say in how it is run. They rode back to the Brennan farm in the late afternoon, and Nathan helped Katherine down from Daisy's saddle with gentle hands. She was stiff and sore from the unaccustomed riding, but exhilarated too. The day had been beautiful, and Nathan had been an easy companion, neither too talkative nor too silent. Thank you for today, Katherine said. I enjoyed it very much. So did I. Nathan hesitated, then said, Katherine, I know you need time to decide, but I want you to know that I hope you will choose to stay. I think we could build something good together. Her heart fluttered strangely in her chest. I hope so too. Over the next week, Katherine settled into a routine at the Brennan farm while spending her days with Nathan. He came every morning to take her riding or show her some aspect of ranch life. She learned how he managed his small cattle herd, moving them to fresh grazing and checking them for injury or illness. She watched him mend fences, the muscles in his back and shoulders flexing as he worked. She helped him collect eggs from the chickens and laughed when one particular hen pecked at his hand. She is mean, Nathan complained, sucking his knuckle. I swear she does it on purpose. Maybe she does not like how you approach her, Katherine suggested. She moved slowly toward the hen, making soft clucking noises, and the bird settled immediately, allowing Katherine to reach beneath her for eggs. See? You just have to be gentle. You have a gift, Nathan said, impressed. Will you teach me? If you like. In the evenings, Katherine returned to the Brennan farm for dinner, and often Nathan would join them. They would sit around the table, talking and laughing, and Katherine began to feel part of something larger than herself. Molly treated her like a younger sister, offering advice and sharing stories about life in Oregon. The children took to her immediately, especially young Emma, who would climb into Katherine's lap and demand stories. On the 8th day, Nathan took Katherine into Portland to show her the town properly. They walked along the muddy streets, and Nathan introduced her to the shopkeepers and townspeople. Katherine met the postmaster, the blacksmith, the woman who ran the dress shop. Everyone was friendly and welcoming, and more than one person expressed delight at the prospect of Nathan finally settling down with a wife. You are well liked here, Katherine observed as they left the general store. Nathan looked embarrassed. I try to be a good neighbor. People remember that kind of thing. They had lunch at Murphy's again, and this time Katherine ordered the chicken pot pie, reveling in the simple pleasure of choosing her own meal. Afterward, Nathan took her to the small church at the edge of town. Reverend Thomas performs most of the weddings around here, Nathan explained as they stood in the churchyard. If you decide you want to marry me, this is where it would happen. Unless you would prefer something else? Katherine looked at the simple white building with its modest steeple. It is lovely. Katherine. Nathan turned to face her fully, his expression serious. You have been here over a week now. I do not want to rush you, but I need to know what you are thinking. Do you think you could be happy here? With me? Her heart was pounding. She had been asking herself the same question every night as she lay in bed at the Brennan farm, staring at the ceiling and trying to imagine her future. The truth was, she could imagine it now. She could see herself in Nathan's small house, tending the garden and the chickens, cooking meals in that simple kitchen. She could see herself riding beside him across the valley, talking and laughing. She could even see herself in his arms, though the thought made her blush. Nathan Irving was a good man, perhaps the best she had ever met. He was kind and patient and respectful. He made her laugh. He listened when she spoke and valued her opinions. He had given her something precious, choice, and now she was choosing him. Yes, Katherine said, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. Yes, Nathan. I think I could be very happy here with you. His face transformed with a smile so bright it took her breath away. Truly? Truly, if you still want me. Want you? Nathan laughed, a sound of pure joy. Katherine, I have been hoping you would say yes since the day you arrived. You are smart and kind and brave. Any man would be lucky to have you as a wife. Katherine felt tears prick her eyes. When I came here, I thought my life was over. I thought I was being shipped off to some stranger who would own me like property. But you gave me my life back, Nathan. You gave me choices and respect and kindness. How could I not want to stay? Nathan reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away if she wanted, and took her hand in his. His palm was rough and warm, and his fingers wrapped around hers with gentle strength. I will spend every day trying to deserve that trust, he said quietly. I promise you, Katherine, I will be a good husband. I will listen to you and respect you and do everything I can to make you happy. I believe you, Katherine whispered. They stood there in the churchyard, hands linked, smiling at each other like fools. Katherine felt lighter than she had in years, as if some great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She was choosing this. She was choosing him. And it felt right in a way nothing in her life had felt right before. So, Nathan said, a hint of mischief in his eyes. When would you like to get married? Katherine laughed. I do not know. When would you like to? Tomorrow, Nathan suggested, then immediately shook his head. No, that is too soon. You should have time to prepare, to get a dress if you want one, and we should invite people, have a proper celebration. What do you think? I think I do not need a fancy dress or a big celebration, Katherine said, but maybe a week? That would give us time to make arrangements and let our neighbors know. A week, Nathan agreed. 1 week from today, we will stand in this church and get married, and then I will take you home, to our home, and we will start our life together. They walked back through town hand in hand, and Katherine felt like she was floating. Everything looked different now, brighter and more welcoming. This was going to be her town. These were going to be her neighbors, and Nathan was going to be her husband. When they arrived back at the Brennan farm, Molly took one look at their joined hands and let out a whoop of delight. You said yes! Oh, Katherine, I am so happy for you both! Sean came out of the barn to see what the commotion was about, and when he heard the news, he insisted on opening a bottle of whiskey he had been saving for a special occasion. They toasted the engagement, and Molly immediately began planning the wedding celebration with the enthusiasm of a general planning a campaign. "We will have a party here after the ceremony," she declared. "I will make my special roast, and we will get the Fishers to bring their famous apple cider, and oh, we will need music. Sean, you will have to get your fiddle tuned." Katherine listened to Molly's plans with a mixture of amusement and affection. She had never had people make such a fuss over her before, and it was overwhelming in the best possible way. That night, after Nathan had gone home and the Brennan children were in bed, Molly sat with Katherine at the kitchen table and took her hand. "Are you sure about this, dear?" Molly asked gently. "I know Nathan is a good man, but marriage is a big step. If you have any doubts, any at all, now is the time to speak them." Katherine considered the question seriously. Did she have doubts? Of course she did. She barely knew Nathan, and they were about to bind their lives together permanently. But she also knew that doubt was not the same as wrongness. Some amount of uncertainty was natural when making such a big decision. "I am sure," Katherine said finally. "Nathan has shown me nothing but kindness and respect. He has given me choices I never had before, and when I am with him, I feel safe and valued. I think that is a good foundation for a marriage." "It is," Molly agreed. "Better than love at first sight, in my opinion. Love can be built from respect and kindness. It is passion without respect that leads to trouble." She squeezed Katherine's hand. "You are a brave woman, Katherine Wright, and you are going to make Nathan very happy." The week that followed was a flurry of activity. Molly took Katherine into town to the dress shop, where they found a simple but lovely dress in cream-colored cotton with lace at the collar and cuffs. Katherine protested the expense, but Nathan insisted, pressing money into Molly's hand and telling her to get whatever Katherine wanted. "It is my wedding too," he said with a smile, "and I want my bride to have a dress that makes her feel beautiful." Katherine tried on the dress in the back room of the shop and almost did not recognize herself in the mirror. The cream color brought out the warmth in her skin, and the fitted bodice showed off her figure in a way her worn, everyday dresses never had. When she emerged to show Molly, the older woman's eyes filled with tears. "Oh, Katherine, you look like an angel." Katherine bought the dress, along with new undergarments and a pair of soft leather shoes. Nathan also gave her money to buy supplies for the ranch, telling her to get whatever she thought they might need for the house. Katherine walked through the general store with a list Molly had helped her compile, selecting fabric for curtains, seeds for the garden, jars for preserving, and 100 other small items that would turn Nathan's bachelor house into a proper home. The storekeeper, a rotund man named Mr. Peterson, beamed at her as he tallied up her purchases. "It is good to see Nathan settling down. He has worked so hard on that ranch of his. He deserves a good woman to share it with." "I will do my best," Katherine said softly. Nathan came to the Brennan farm every day, sometimes just for an hour, sometimes for the whole afternoon. They talked about everything: their childhoods, their hopes for the future, their fears and dreams. Nathan told her about the war, about the things he had seen and done as a young soldier in Missouri. Katherine told him about her mother's death, about the years she had spent caring for her ailing father, about the loneliness and helplessness she had felt in her uncle's house. "You will never be helpless again," Nathan said fiercely. "Not while I'm alive. You are my equal partner, Katherine, in all things." 2 days before the wedding, Nathan took Katherine back to the ranch to help her prepare the house. They spent the day cleaning and arranging, hanging the new curtains Katherine had sewn, and placing wildflowers in jars on the windowsills. Katherine made a list of repairs and improvements she wanted to make: a shelf for her books, a bigger table for the kitchen, a proper clothesline outside. Nathan listened to each suggestion and agreed readily, even offering ideas of his own. "We could add a room onto the back," he suggested, "for when we have children, if we are blessed with them." Katherine felt her cheeks warm at the mention of children, but she did not shy away from the topic. "I would like that. I have always wanted a family of my own." "Then we will make one," Nathan said simply. "Together." The night before the wedding, Katherine could hardly sleep. She lay in the bed at the Brennan farm, staring at the ceiling and trying to process everything that had happened in the past 2 weeks. She had arrived in Oregon expecting the worst and had found something she had never dared hope for: a true partner, a man who saw her as a person rather than property. Tomorrow she would marry Nathan Irving. Tomorrow her new life would truly begin. The wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, one of those perfect September mornings when the air was crisp and the sky was impossibly blue. Molly helped Katherine dress, arranging her dark hair in an elegant knot and weaving in small white flowers. When Katherine looked at herself in the mirror, she saw a woman she barely recognized, confident, hopeful, almost radiant. "You are beautiful," Molly said, hugging her from behind. "Nathan is going to forget how to breathe when he sees you." They rode into town in the Brennan wagon, the children chattering excitedly about the party later. The little church was already filling up with neighbors and townspeople who had come to witness the wedding. Katherine felt a flutter of nervousness as they approached, but it was excitement more than fear. Inside the church, Reverend Thomas waited at the altar, a kindly man with white hair and a gentle smile. And beside him stood Nathan, dressed in his Sunday best, a dark suit with a crisp white shirt and a string tie. He had shaved and combed his hair back, and when he saw Katherine walking down the aisle, his face lit up with such wonder and joy that she felt tears prick her eyes. Sean Brennan walked Katherine down the aisle, having agreed to stand in for her absent father. When they reached the altar, he placed Katherine's hand in Nathan's with a solemn nod, then stepped back to join Molly and the children in the front pew. "Dearly beloved," Reverend Thomas began, and Katherine barely heard the words. She was too focused on Nathan's face, on the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. The ceremony was short and simple. They exchanged vows in steady voices, promising to love and honor and cherish each other for all their days. Nathan's hands were warm and strong around hers, and when Reverend Thomas pronounced them man and wife, Nathan leaned down and kissed her gently, reverently, like she was made of glass. The church erupted in cheers and applause. Neighbors surged forward to congratulate them, and Katherine found herself hugged and kissed by people she had barely met. It was overwhelming and wonderful, and through it all, Nathan stayed close to her side, his hand at the small of her back, anchoring her. They rode out to the Brennan farm in Nathan's wagon, now officially as husband and wife. The celebration was already underway when they arrived, with tables set up in the yard and neighbors arriving from all directions bearing food and gifts. Someone had hung lanterns from the trees, and Sean Brennan stood on the porch with his fiddle, tuning it in preparation for dancing later. The afternoon passed in a blur of food and laughter and music. Katherine met what felt like 100 people, all welcoming her to the community and offering advice or good wishes. She danced with Nathan when the music started, his hand firm at her waist and his eyes never leaving her face. She was not a particularly good dancer, and neither was he, but it did not matter. They moved together, learning each other's rhythm, and it felt like a promise of things to come. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose, Nathan leaned down and whispered in her ear, "Should we head home, Mrs. Irving?" Mrs. Irving, her new name. Katherine felt a thrill run through her. "Yes," she whispered back. "Let us go home." They said their goodbyes amid much teasing and laughter, and then Nathan helped Katherine up into the wagon. As they drove away from the Brennan farm, their friends and neighbors called out blessings and waved goodbye. Katherine waved back, feeling like she was riding away from one life and toward another entirely. The ride back to the ranch was quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. The evening air was cooling and stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. When they reached the ranch house, Nathan pulled the wagon to a stop and sat for a moment just looking at the place. "Our home," he said softly. "Our home," Katherine echoed. Nathan helped her down from the wagon and, in a gesture that made her gasp, swept her up into his arms. "I believe this is traditional," he said with a grin, carrying her toward the house. Katherine laughed, wrapping her arms around his neck. "I believe you are right." He carried her across the threshold and set her down gently in the main room. Someone, probably Molly, had been here while they were at the wedding, because there were more wildflowers on the table and a fire laid ready in the fireplace. Nathan lit the fire with hands that shook slightly, and Katherine realized he was nervous. "Nathan," she said softly. He turned to face her. "Yes?" "I am nervous too." His expression softened. "We do not have to do anything tonight except sleep, Katherine. I meant what I said before. I will never push you." "I know." Katherine stepped closer to him, her heart pounding. "But I want to. Not because I think I have to, but because I choose to. You are my husband, and I want to be a wife to you in every way." Nathan's eyes darkened with emotion. He reached out and cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs stroking gently over her cheekbones. "Are you sure?" "I am sure." He kissed her then, more deeply than he had in the church, and Katherine felt heat spread through her body. His hands moved to her waist, then up her back, careful and respectful, even in passion. Katherine pressed closer to him, surprised by her own boldness, but unable to help herself. She wanted this. She wanted him. They made their way to the bedroom in a tangle of kisses and whispered endearments. Nathan lit the lamp on the bedside table with trembling hands, then turned to help Katherine with the buttons on her dress. He was patient, taking his time, and when the dress finally fell away, he looked at her with such reverence that Katherine felt beautiful, despite her worn undergarments and nervousness. "You are perfect," Nathan whispered. "So are you." Their coming together was tender and a little awkward. Both of them inexperienced but willing to learn. Nathan was gentle, always checking to make sure she was comfortable, and Katherine found herself relaxing into his touch. There was pain at first, but it faded into something else, something warm and intimate and right. When it was over, they lay tangled together in the narrow bed, Nathan's arms around her and her head on his chest. "I love you," Nathan said into the darkness. "I know it is too soon to say it, that we barely know each other, but I love you, Katherine. I think I started falling for you the moment you stepped off that stagecoach looking so scared and brave." Katherine's throat tightened with emotion. "I love you too," she whispered. "I did not expect to, but I do." They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other's arms, and Katherine's last thought before sleep claimed her was that she had finally come home. The next weeks passed in a happy blur as Katherine settled into her new life. She woke each morning beside Nathan, marveling at the simple pleasure of having someone to share breakfast with. They worked together during the day, Nathan handling the ranch and cattle while Katherine transformed the house and garden. She weeded the neglected vegetable plot and planted seeds for a late fall crop of greens and root vegetables. She sewed new curtains for the bedroom and organized the kitchen shelves. She learned to bake bread in the temperamental stove and to manage the temperamental chickens. Nathan was true to his word about letting her make decisions. When Katherine suggested they build a proper pantry off the kitchen, he agreed immediately and spent his evenings after ranch work cutting and fitting lumber. When she wanted to rearrange the furniture in the main room, he helped her move everything without complaint. When she had ideas about how to manage the household budget or what supplies they should lay in for winter, he listened carefully and usually agreed with her suggestions. They grew closer with each passing day, learning each other's habits and preferences. Katherine discovered that Nathan was an early riser who liked his coffee strong and black. Nathan learned that Katherine was not truly awake until she had been up for at least an hour and that she hummed while she cooked. They developed routines. Morning chores done side by side, lunch shared at the kitchen table, evenings spent by the fire reading or talking. The physical intimacy between them deepened as well. The awkwardness of their first night gave way to genuine passion as they learned what pleased each other. Nathan was always tender and attentive, and Katherine found herself looking forward to the nights when they would retreat to their bedroom and lose themselves in each other. One morning in late October, Katherine woke feeling queasy. She barely made it outside before she was sick in the bushes beside the house. Nathan found her there, pale and shaking, and immediately swept her back inside and into bed. "I'm calling for the doctor," he said, his face tight with worry. "No, no, doctor," Katherine managed. "I think I know what this is." Nathan stared at her, and slowly his expression changed from worry to wonder. "Are you saying?" "I think I might be pregnant." Katherine placed a hand over her still flat stomach. "It is too soon to be certain, but the signs are there." Nathan sat down on the edge of the bed, looking dazed. "A baby. We are going to have a baby." "If I am right, yes. Are you happy?" "Happy?" Nathan laughed, the sound slightly wild. "Katherine, I am terrified and thrilled and amazed. A baby. Our baby." He took her hand and kissed her knuckles. "Are you happy?" "Yes," Katherine said, and realized it was true. "Yes, I am very happy." Molly confirmed Katherine's suspicion a few days later with the wisdom of a woman who had borne 3 children herself. "You are definitely pregnant, dear. I would guess about 6 weeks along, which means the baby will come in early summer. Congratulations to both of you." Nathan was insufferably protective after that, trying to stop Katherine from doing any heavy work and insisting she rest more. Katherine appreciated his concern, but also found it slightly suffocating. "I am pregnant, not ill," she told him firmly one afternoon when he tried to stop her from carrying a basket of laundry. "Women have been doing chores while pregnant since the beginning of time. I will be fine." "But what if you fall or strain yourself?" "Then I will be more careful. Nathan, I love you, but you cannot wrap me in cotton wool for the next 7 months. I will go mad." Nathan sighed but relented. "I am just worried." "You are the most precious thing in my life, Katherine. I could not bear it if something happened to you." Her irritation melted away. "Nothing is going to happen to me, but I need you to trust me to know my own limits, all right?" "All right, but you will tell me if you need help?" "I promise." The winter that followed was harsh, with snow and ice that made travel difficult and ranch work challenging, but the little house was warm and cozy, and Katherine found she did not mind being snowed in with Nathan. They spent long evenings by the fire, Nathan reading aloud from one of his adventure novels while Katherine knitted tiny clothes for the baby. They talked about names and about what kind of parents they wanted to be. They made love slowly and tenderly, careful of Katherine's growing belly. "I want our child to have choices," Katherine said one night as they lay in bed, Nathan's hand resting on the swell of her stomach. "I want them to grow up knowing they have value and worth, that their opinions matter." "They will," Nathan promised. "Boy or girl, they will be raised to think for themselves and to treat others with respect, just like their mother." Spring came slowly, the snow melting to reveal muddy ground and the first brave shoots of new grass. Katherine's belly grew round and tight, and she felt the baby moving inside her, little flutters that grew into definite kicks. Nathan was fascinated by these movements, pressing his hand to her stomach and laughing in delight when the baby kicked against his palm. "Strong," he said proudly, "just like the mother." In early June, on a warm afternoon when the valley was green and alive, Katherine's labor began. Nathan rode like mad to fetch Molly, who arrived with her calm competence and immediately took charge. The labor was long and difficult, lasting through the afternoon and into the night. Katherine had never known such pain, but Molly coached her through it, and Nathan held her hand and wiped her brow and told her over and over how brave she was. Finally, as the first light of dawn was breaking, the baby came. A boy, red-faced and squalling, with a strong pair of lungs and his father's dark hair. "A son," Nathan breathed, tears streaming down his face as Molly placed the baby in his arms. "Katherine, we have a son." Katherine, exhausted and sweaty and happier than she had ever been in her life, reached out to touch her baby's tiny hand. "Hello, little one. We have been waiting for you." They named him Noah, after Nathan's father, and from the moment he entered the world, he became the center of their universe. Nathan was a devoted father, changing diapers and walking the floor with the baby when he was fussy. Katherine nursed her son and marveled at the tiny miracle they had created together. "I never knew I could love someone this much," Nathan confessed one night as he rocked Noah to sleep. "I love you, Katherine, more than life itself. But this is something else entirely." "I know," Katherine whispered. "I feel it too." Life settled into a new rhythm with a baby in the house. Katherine was exhausted much of the time, but it was a good exhaustion, born of purpose and love. Noah grew quickly, a healthy, happy baby who smiled easily and rarely cried unless he was truly distressed. Nathan would come in from ranch work and immediately reach for his son, talking to the baby about cattle and grass and the weather as if Noah could understand every word. The ranch prospered too. Nathan's careful management and hard work paid off, and the herd grew to nearly 100 head. He hired a ranch hand, a young man named Tom who was eager to learn the trade, which freed Nathan up to spend more time with his family. Katherine's garden flourished, producing more vegetables than they could eat fresh, so she learned to can and preserve for winter. She made jellies and pickles and put up jars of tomatoes and beans that lined the new pantry shelves. When Noah was 6 months old, Molly threw a party to celebrate, inviting all the neighbors. Katherine looked around at the gathered friends, at the people who had welcomed her and supported her through her first year in Oregon, and felt overwhelmed with gratitude. This was her community now. These were her people. And standing beside her, holding their son, was the man who had made it all possible by giving her one simple gift: choice. "What are you thinking?" Nathan asked softly as they stood together watching the children play. "That I am happy," Katherine said simply. "That I never imagined my life could be this good." Nathan shifted Noah to one arm so he could pull Katherine close with the other. "It is only going to get better," he promised. "We are just getting started, you and I." He was right. Over the next years, their family grew. Katherine gave birth to a daughter 2 years after Noah, a little girl they named Nora, who had her mother's dark eyes and her father's stubborn determination. Then came another son, Neil, who was quieter than his siblings, but just as loved. The house expanded too, with Nathan building on additional rooms so everyone had space. The ranch continued to thrive, becoming one of the most successful in the valley. But more than the material success, what mattered was the love that filled every corner of their home. Nathan never stopped treating Katherine as an equal partner, consulting her on major decisions and respecting her opinions. Katherine never stopped being grateful for the second chance at life he had given her. Their children grew up in a household where they saw their parents treating each other with kindness and respect, where they learned that marriage was a partnership and that everyone's voice mattered. Years passed, and the children grew into young adults with dreams and ambitions of their own. Noah took over much of the ranch work from his aging father, proving to be a natural cattleman. Nora surprised everyone by becoming a teacher, riding into town 3 days a week to instruct the growing number of children in Portland. Neil showed a talent for woodworking and began crafting furniture that was sought after throughout the valley. Katherine watched her children flourish and felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had grown up with choices, with the freedom to pursue their own paths, just as she and Nathan had always wanted. They were confident and capable, ready to face whatever challenges life brought them. On their 25th wedding anniversary, Nathan took Katherine back to the little church where they had been married. It was a warm September day, much like the day of their wedding, and they stood in the churchyard holding hands just as they had done all those years ago. "Do you remember what you said to me?" Nathan asked. "That day I asked you to marry me?" "I said I thought I could be very happy with you," Katherine replied. "Were you right?" Katherine looked at the man beside her, at the silver threading through his dark hair and the lines of age and laughter on his face. She thought about all the years they had shared, the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and challenges. She thought about the family they had built and the life they had created from nothing but hope and respect. "I was right," she said softly, but I underestimated just how happy. You gave me my life back, Nathan. You gave me choices and freedom and love. You gave me everything." Nathan pulled her close, and they stood there in the churchyard, older and wiser, but still deeply in love. "You gave me just as much," he murmured. "You made my house a home. You gave me a family and a purpose beyond just surviving. You were the choice I made that changed everything." They kissed there in the autumn sunshine, a long, tender kiss that held 25 years of love and partnership. When they finally pulled apart, Katherine rested her head on Nathan's shoulder and smiled. "What do you think the next 25 years will bring?" she asked. "Grandchildren, I hope," Nathan said with a laugh. "Noah has been courting that Miller girl pretty seriously. And maybe more gray hair and creaky joints. But whatever comes, we will face it together. Just like we always have." "Together," Katherine agreed. "Always together." They walked back to their wagon hand in hand, ready to return to the ranch that was their home, to the family that was their greatest achievement, to the life they had built together through respect, kindness, and love. Katherine thought back to that frightened young woman who had stepped off the stagecoach 25 years ago, expecting nothing but servitude and hardship. That woman could never have imagined the happiness that awaited her. But then, that woman had never met Nathan Irving, the cowboy who believed that everyone deserved choices, especially the mail-order bride who had never been given any. He had changed her life simply by seeing her as a person worthy of respect and agency, and in return she had given him her heart, her trust, and her devotion. The years continued to roll by, each one bringing new experiences and deeper bonds. True to Nathan's prediction, Noah married the Miller girl, Grace, in a beautiful ceremony that reminded Katherine of her own wedding. Watching her son exchange vows with the woman he loved, she squeezed Nathan's hand and felt the circle of life completing itself. Noah and Grace built a house on the far edge of the ranch property, and within a year, Katherine and Nathan became grandparents to a squalling baby boy they named after his grandfather. Holding little Nathan in her arms for the first time, Katherine felt tears stream down her face. "Look what we started," she whispered to her husband. "Look what came from that one choice to give me freedom." Nora eventually married as well to a banker from Portland named Charles, who respected her intelligence and supported her teaching. They lived in town but visited the ranch often, and their wedding gift to Katherine and Nathan was a portrait painted by a traveling artist, showing the entire family gathered together on the porch of the ranch house. That portrait hung in the main room for the rest of Katherine and Nathan's lives, a testament to the family they had built. Neil took longer to settle down, but when he did, it was with a widow named Sarah who had 2 young children of her own. Neil embraced fatherhood to those children as if they were his own blood, and watching him do so made Katherine proud beyond words. Her son had learned from his parents that family was built on love and choice, not just blood. As Katherine and Nathan entered their 60s, they gradually handed over more responsibilities to their children. Noah ran the ranch now, with Tom, their longtime ranch hand, serving as foreman. The herd had grown to over 300 head, and the Irving Ranch was known throughout Oregon Territory as a model of good management and fair dealing. Katherine still tended her beloved garden, though she moved more slowly now, and Nathan still rode out to check the fences and cattle, though he came back more tired than he once had. They spent their evenings much as they had in the early days of their marriage, sitting by the fire and talking. Sometimes they reminisced about the past, laughing over memories of the children's antics or the various challenges they had faced over the years. Sometimes they read aloud to each other, sharing the new books that Nora brought them from town. And sometimes they simply sat in comfortable silence, content in each other's presence. "Do you ever regret it?" Katherine asked one evening as they sat watching the sunset from their porch, "taking a chance on a mail-order bride who came to you against her will?" Nathan turned to look at her, his eyes still as warm as they had been on their wedding day. "Regret marrying the love of my life? Not for a single second. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, Katherine Irving. Even though I could not cook very well at first, And I killed half your chickens through sheer incompetence in those early days? Nathan laughed, the sound rich and familiar. Even though you learned, and you became the best cook in the valley. And as for the chickens, well, they had it coming. They were mean. Katherine smiled, reaching over to take his hand. Their fingers intertwined with the ease of decades of practice. I used to think happiness was something that happened to other people, that I was destined to live at the mercy of others' choices forever. And then I met you. I just did what was right. No. Katherine shook her head firmly. You did what was extraordinary. Most men would not have given me the freedom you did. You could have insisted on immediate marriage, on obedience, on 100 things that were your legal right as my husband. Instead, you gave me partnership and respect. You changed my whole life. Nathan lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. And you changed mine. Before you came, I was just going through the motions, building a ranch, but not really building a life. You gave me purpose, Katherine. You gave me love and family and a reason to come home every evening. They sat together as the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink. The valley spread out before them, green and peaceful, dotted with the homes of their children and grandchildren. This was their legacy, Katherine thought. Not just the land or the cattle, but the family they had built on a foundation of respect and choice. More years passed, and Katherine and Nathan watched their grandchildren grow. Little Nathan, who everyone called Nate to avoid confusion, grew into a sturdy boy who loved the ranch as much as his grandfather did. Nora's children were bright and bookish, always asking questions about everything. Neil's stepchildren bloomed under his patient guidance, and Sarah gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl who became the babies of the extended Irving family. Katherine and Nathan hosted Sunday dinners at the ranch whenever weather permitted, the big table Nathan had built years ago groaning under the weight of food as the entire family gathered. These were Katherine's favorite times, surrounded by the noise and laughter of her children and grandchildren, seeing the love and connection that flowed between them all. On one such Sunday, as Katherine was clearing dishes with her daughters and daughters-in-law, Nora paused and looked at her mother seriously. "Mama," she said, "I want to thank you." Katherine blinked in surprise. "Thank me? For what?" "For showing me what a marriage should look like. For teaching me that I deserved respect and partnership, not just obedience. When Charles first courted me, I had standards because of what I saw between you and Papa. I knew what real love looked like, and I was not willing to settle for anything less." Grace nodded in agreement. "Noah is the same way. He treats me as an equal because that is how his father treated you. He listens to my ideas about the ranch and values my input. That came from watching you two." Sarah, standing at the sink, turned to add her voice. "When Neil first met my children, I was so worried about how he would treat them. But he has been wonderful, so patient and kind. He learned that from this family, from the way you and Nathan built your home on respect and love." Katherine felt tears welling in her eyes. "I just wanted you all to be happy, to have choices and freedom to build your own lives." "And we do," Nora said softly, "because you and Papa showed us it was possible. You broke the mold, Mama. You created something different, something better, and we are all benefiting from it." The women hugged, a tangle of arms and tears and laughter, and when they finally pulled apart, Katherine felt a deep sense of peace. This was what mattered. Not the material success or the size of the ranch, but the love and respect that echoed through generations. She and Nathan had started something beautiful all those years ago when he gave her a choice, and now it was flowering in ways they could never have imagined. As Katherine and Nathan entered their 70s, their health began to decline. Nathan developed a cough that would not go away, and Katherine's joints ached with arthritis. They moved more slowly, tired more easily, but their love remained constant. The children insisted they take on less work, hiring people to help with the household chores and ranch maintenance. Katherine and Nathan protested at first, but eventually accepted the help with grace. They spent more time together, just the two of them, savoring every moment. They took slow walks around the property, reminiscing about the early days when they had worked so hard to build everything from nothing. They sat in the garden Katherine had planted decades ago, now mature and lush, and talked about the future they would not see. "Promise me something," Katherine said one autumn afternoon as they sat beneath the old willow tree by the creek. "Anything," Nathan replied. "Promise me you will tell our story. Tell the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. Tell them that their great-grandmother was a mail-order bride who had no choices, and their great-grandfather was a cowboy who believed everyone deserved to choose their own path. Tell them that love built on respect and freedom is the strongest foundation there is. I promise," Nathan said, his voice thick with emotion. "I will tell them, and they will tell their children, and the story will live on." Katherine leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat together in the dappled sunlight, listening to the creek bubble past. They had been married for over 40 years now, and Katherine could not imagine her life without this man. He had saved her in every way that mattered, not by rescuing her from danger, but by giving her the tools to save herself. He had seen her as a person when the world saw her as property. He had valued her opinions when others dismissed them. He had loved her freely and let her love him in return. Nathan passed away first on a cold winter morning in their 43rd year of marriage. He went peacefully in his sleep. Katherine beside him, as she had been for so many years. The grief was overwhelming, a physical pain that made Katherine feel like her heart had been torn from her chest. But even through the sorrow, she felt grateful. They had been given so many years together, so much love and happiness. Not everyone was so blessed. The entire valley turned out for Nathan's funeral. People came from miles around to pay their respects to a man who had been known for his fairness, his hard work, and his devotion to his family. Katherine stood at the graveside, supported by her children, and listened as the Reverend spoke about Nathan's character and legacy. But the words that mattered most came from their grandson Nate, who spoke about the grandfather who had taught him that true strength lay in kindness, that real power was in lifting others up. "Grandpa used to tell me a story," Nate said, his young voice steady despite his tears, "about how Grandma came to Oregon as a mail-order bride, and he gave her choices instead of commands. He said that was the moment he became a real man, when he decided to treat Grandma as an equal. He told me that if I wanted to be like him, I should remember that everyone deserves respect and freedom, no matter who they are. I am going to remember that, Grandpa, I promise." Katherine wept then, great sobbing tears that came from the depths of her soul. But they were not entirely tears of sadness. They were also tears of pride and gratitude. Nathan's legacy would live on, not just in the land and the ranch, but in the values he had instilled in his children and grandchildren. Katherine lived another 5 years after Nathan's death, staying in the ranch house that held so many memories. Her children worried about her being alone, but Katherine insisted this was her home, the place where she had discovered who she truly was, and she wanted to spend her remaining days here. The children and grandchildren visited often, and Katherine spent her time writing down stories of her life with Nathan, preserving the memories for future generations. She wrote about that first day in Portland when she had been so scared, and Nathan had offered her food and kindness instead of demands. She wrote about their courtship, about learning to love him, about the joy of building a life together. She wrote about their children and the values they had tried to instill. She wrote about the importance of choice and respect and partnership in marriage. On a warm spring morning, Katherine woke feeling peaceful and content. She rose slowly, dressed in her favorite blue dress, and walked out to the willow tree by the creek where she and Nathan had spent so many happy hours. She sat down beneath its branches, feeling the morning sun on her face and listening to the birds sing. And there, in the place where she had found so much happiness, surrounded by the beauty of the valley she had called home for over 50 years, Katherine Irving closed her eyes for the last time. The family found her later that morning, And though they grieved, there was also a sense of rightness. Katherine had lived a full, rich life. She had known love and partnership and had raised a family that embodied the values she and Nathan held dear. She had gone peacefully in a place she loved, and now she would be reunited with the man who had given her everything by giving her the simple gift of choice. They buried Katherine beside Nathan, in the small cemetery overlooking the valley. The entire community came to the funeral, 3 generations of people whose lives had been touched by the Irving family. As Katherine was laid to rest, her grandchildren and great-grandchildren gathered around, and Nate, now a grown man with children of his own, spoke about his grandparents' legacy. They showed us that love is a choice, he said, that respect is fundamental. That partnership between equals is stronger than any hierarchy. My great-grandmother came to Oregon with nothing, not even control over her own life. My great-grandfather gave her back that control, and together they built something that will last for generations. We are all here because of the choice he made to treat her as an equal and the choice she made to trust him. That is the legacy they leave us. That is what we must carry forward. The years that followed proved Nate right. The Irving family continued to thrive, each generation passing down the stories of Katherine and Nathan. The ranch stayed in the family, managed with the same careful attention and respect for the land that Nathan had shown. The values of partnership and choice that Katherine and Nathan had embodied became family traditions, woven into the fabric of how the Irvings lived and loved. Katherine's written memoirs were eventually published, becoming a beloved account of life in the early days of Oregon Territory. Young women read her story and were inspired by the idea that marriage could be a partnership of equals. Young men read about Nathan and learned that true strength lay in respecting others. The book became a testament to the power of kindness and choice, proof that one person's decision to do the right thing could ripple out through generations. The ranch house itself became something of a landmark. Future generations of Irvings preserved it carefully, maintaining the simple structure that Nathan had built with his own hands. Visitors would come to see the place where Katherine and Nathan had lived and loved, where they had raised their family and built their legacy. The house stood as a monument to the idea that love built on respect and freedom could withstand anything. And every year, on the anniversary of Katherine and Nathan's wedding, the Irving family would gather at the ranch. They would stand beneath the old willow tree by the creek, and the oldest member of the family would tell the story once again. The story of the mail order bride who had never been given a choice, and the cowboy who let her choose everything. The story of how one act of kindness and respect had changed not just 2 lives, but countless lives across generations. It was a story of hope, of second chances, of the transformative power of treating others with dignity. It was a love story, but more than that, it was a story about what love should be. A choice freely made, a partnership between equals, a foundation built on respect and trust. And in the telling and retelling of that story, Katherine and Nathan's legacy lived on, inspiring new generations to choose love over control, partnership over domination, respect over subjugation. They had started a quiet revolution in their small corner of Oregon, and its effects rippled out far beyond what they could have ever imagined. The mail-order bride had arrived in Portland with nothing, not even control over her own destiny. The cowboy had given her back that control, and in doing so had discovered his own path to happiness. Together they had built a life, a family, and a legacy that would endure long after they were gone. And that, in the end, was the greatest choice of all.